I call it my fuckboy era.
Nice.
And I say that, and then some friends are just like, you were really clear, like the people that fell in love, and that you were clear with them that like, hey, like I just want to have a physical transaction. Like this is not, I'm not looking for anything. A physical transaction.
a PT.
This is like what it is. Yeah, I was like a little PT. This is it. I don't want anything else. And if you want to change me, like I can tell you right now, that is not the course of action. I am not. I knew at the time that I was emotionally unavailable, and I was not shy about sharing that. I literally was like, I want this. I'm not emotionally available. I'm not looking to date. I'm not looking to like, deepen a connection. Right. My Scorpio was like, what do you mean?
Welcome to Stars and Stars of Isa. This is the show where we look to the stars above with the stars below. I'm Isa Nakazawa, your host and resident astrologer. And in today's episode, I chat with actor, drag king, and activist Vico Ortiz. In May, Vico debuted their solo show, Rise of a King, where they take us on a gender-bending journey through their childhood. It's a story about finding and owning who they truly are. And as a Sag rising, this process of translating their life into a story and performance comes supernaturally. In our conversation, Vico talks all about the messy magic of becoming, from polyamory to why they never flirt with the Pisces. So without further ado, let's get in today's conversation. For so many reasons, I've been excited for this conversation, but one of them is you do weave some astrology into your own practice and your work, which we're going to get into. But I just want to dive into that before we get into the details of your chart. Like, what has your relationship into astrology? I believe I've heard you had your birth chart printed at birth. There's so much I want to know about. Like, just tell me what your relationship is to the cosmos.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, it started pretty early because my mom and my dad very intentionally had me and my brother my mom wanted to have a Libra kid, and then once she had me, she was like, okay, amazing. A complementary sign for that would be Taurus, and then my brother came along as a Taurus. So of course the rest of the stuff you can't, control, the rising, the moon, the Venus, all that stuff. It's like, well, let's see what happens. But at least for those ones, they were both very intentional about that, because my mom's a Scorpio, my dad's a Leo, and they wanted to have all the elements in the house. So you got water and fire, you got Libra, air, and then my brother Taurus being earth. And we are a very complementary family with each other. So
I'm freaking out.
Yeah.
Can't handle anything that was shared.
Isa, it's really astrology has been the backbone of my
That was the jackpot answer. There's conscious creation, which shout out to my mom. I was consciously created, but to have it timed to the cosmos, and there's obviously your mom's a Scorpio. That is the only sign she could be. That's amazing. She wanted all elements.
She wanted all elements
on some Marvel Kinect game. Wow.
Yep. It's wild too, because, and this is the thing that we of course did not know until a little farther down, but then my dad's Venus is in Virgo, my mom's Venus is also in Virgo, and as you know, my Venus is also in Virgo. So I'm in constant negotiation with all my signs to kind of be like, okay, delegate. You can do that, but stay off of this thing. I'm gonna make sure that these other ones collaborate on this way.
And to that point, we're gonna share with our audience your big three, so that they can start to see the beautiful complexity of your chart. So as we know, you are a Libra sun, a Scorpio moon, shout out moms, and a Sag rising, which we love. Yes. So you have the air, the water, and the fire just in your big three alone, with all of the modalities represented. So you have the cardinal Libra, the fixed Scorpio, and the mutable Sag. So you have lots of ways of being as well, which is really beautiful. And one thing that really immediately stood out is Libra, Scorpio, and Sag sit alongside one another in the zodiacal narrative. So I'm always fascinated when people have this kind of chunked out cosmic energy, because there's always going to be something shared about signs that sit next to each other, but there's also going to be things that they evolve or that they rub up against because they're interested in elaborating on the previous sign. So Libra takes Scorpio takes the baton from Libra, and then Sag takes the baton from Scorpio. So we'll kind of talk about how those signs build off one another. Have you thought about this before? Because you're doing amazing things with your face.
Yeah, I'm just like, I've never thought about that. I mean, it's funny because I was mentioning a little bit of like, as you learn and grow and start to integrate, right? I kind of see it like that. Like, oh, there was a moment in my life where I felt very chaotic, and I know that I was mostly leaning on like Libra, Sag, and Scorpio and Virgo were like in a corner, like, yo, like we're here, like you can't
deny us, baby.
Wish us away. Yeah, it's like. If you were to integrate, we could collaborate, right? But of course, everything is a balance, and I am a Libra, right? So I'm always thinking about like, okay, so balance, right? Like if we lean too much on one end, then we're like invalidating or repressing another end, and then whatever that may be. So how can we find that discernment that you mentioned earlier? How we find that like happy medium that has like everybody working and feeling like they're nurturing something together rather than like pulling from different corners.
So let's start at the beginning. Let's start with your Sag rising, which is your most personal placement. We're going to start kind of with this, not just mask, but how our instincts and like the big yes of our life is shaping a lot of our decisions that we're making, including for you, you know, Sag, we can start with the basics, is mutable fire. It's ruled by the expansive and abundant planet of Jupiter. One of the archetypes I was thinking about as it relates to you is storytelling in a specific way, where Sag risings are here to really translate the deliciousness of lived experience into embodied wisdom. And maybe you can tell me about like when you first experienced drag and burlesque as like a medium to tell stories. And then maybe you can bring that to the present day, to your debut solo show, Rise of a King, and what stories or story you felt compelled to tell through this specific show.
Oh, wow, I love this. And I like it. I was like, yeah, this all resonates. This all makes a lot of sense. Because even with Rise of a King and what the next steps are looking like, it's very much like, how can we continue to expand this? How can this evolve? How can this continue to ebb and flow and become this whole other thing? So yeah, the first time I stumbled upon drag, really, or it was put in front of me, and I was like, oh, what am I supposed to do with this? It was in 2016, and a friend of mine was doing a fundraiser for the AIDS Life Cycle Foundation, and she was like, yo, I want to produce an all-king drag king show called Them Fatale, and was like, you're an actor, have you ever done drag? And I'm like, no, but sure, let me look it up. And then I knew of drag queens and impersonations, but I've never seen drag kings before. And at the time, I found like maybe a handful of YouTube videos, and I was like, it's a little bit different from what I'm used to, because normally for like drag queens, I was mostly used to seeing impersonations of, you know, Christina Aguilera, Shakira,
Right.
J-Lo, Beyonce, more so impersonations rather than like a storyline or a performance art. And from the handful of drag king performances that I saw, it leaned more performance artist and burlesque than like what I was seeing with drag queens. And I was like, interesting. This looks like a lot for now, but let me just like try impersonating for now and like get my feet wet, right? Then I began impersonating Ricky Martin and then Freddie Mercury.
Yes.
And which of course, like I was like, oh, there's
cats.
something happening here. Yeah. And then I began to see more drag king shows, and I was like, oh, whoa, there's something here that not only is it tapping into something inside around like my relationship to femininity and masculinity, and how it's like feeling like they're dancing and coexisting in a really beautiful way while I'm on stage. It was also tapping into, speaking about what we were speaking earlier, like invalidating or repressing my connection, my intersection as a queer Puerto Rican. Because before, you know, in Puerto Rico, I always was like, I came out in the US first, and most of my exploration around gender and sexuality have been in the US. And in Puerto Rico, yeah, I felt like I was very loud Puerto Rican in Puerto Rico, but kind of like not so loud in my queer side. And then in LA, I was very loud queer, not so loud in the Puerto Rican. And I was kind of just like splitting myself. And then in drag, I was able to kind of like not just like split it, but like showcase both and be a loud queer Puerto Rican and explore my gender fluidity and my expression. And I was like, oh shit, something's here that I love. And it kept trickling down into my day-to-day life, and then it became into the solo show, and now it's going to become this whole other thing.
What was it about that medium that you felt like, oh wow, like all of me is invited here, like all of me can play and all of me has room?
It began to tap also into like my inner child, because as a kid, I always loved to dress up, and I loved to go in my parents' closet and like dress up and like mix and match both of their clothes and just have fun with it. But then as an adult, I kind of began losing that sense of play with my expression and who I am, because it wasn't something that was given, really. It was just like, oh, well, this is how you're going to dress and this is how you're going to present, and then done, rather than like keep allowing that sense of exploration. And then drag, that medium, was like, oh, you can keep playing, babe. Like every performance is a chance to try something new. And I was like, why am I just doing this on stage? Why am I not doing that on my everyday life? And then it kind of like one thing began to feed the other. And so I'm a huge advocate for drag performing as a form of exploration, as a form to celebrate your insecurities and then reframe them, because then all of a sudden you're like, oh shit, now that I've seen this part of myself that I've been hiding be celebrated, why am I hiding it anymore?
Why do you think that kind of Rise of a King and all of your drag and burlesque work actually opened up something in your lived offstage life?
In the very beginning of my drag king journey, I was in my very messy Libra Sag era.
The glasses.
Libra Sag, yeah, it was like a lead era. And as I began to kind of like explore more of that in-depthness and have much more intentional, vulnerable, heart-to-heart conversations, not just with myself, but with other people, as I was exploring my own gender and my own like expression, then that Scorpio was like, bruh, like you gotta start, listen.
Bruh. That is what we sound like.
You gotta.
Bruh.
It's like, bruh. Like, you're depriving yourself of some like really in-depth conversations if you keep running away like this, right? And I began to tap into that Scorpio and allowing myself to witness myself very rawly, and then explore also. I was doing a little bit of like shame work. I was starting to do some shame work as well. I realized, oh, shame feeds itself in isolation. If I keep isolating myself from these experiences or like covering and hiding, then I'm gonna keep, nurturing this shame, and I don't necessarily want to do that anymore. So then I begin to share myself more.
Let's talk a little bit more about the dance of your Sag rising and Libra sun, because I feel like in some ways they are similar in that, to me, they're both really warm, social, affable signs that know how to make someone feel at ease. And, I will say, though, because I'm surrounded by Sages, and they tell it like it is.
Yes.
So there is also a way that they're very different, because a Sag won't even, you just said it, they're not going to sit there and overthink. They're going to be really authentic, and they're moving too quick to stop and do the kind of negotiation work that, that I think is beautiful that Libra does. So my first question is, you've kind of referenced being an unhealed Libra Sag, and I do want to just like hear maybe a story that can ground us in that, or like, what did you mean by that, and how did you?
Oh my God.
Yeah, how did you kind of like become aware around the ways that Libra Sag can maybe be a little bit chaotic or a little bit, less like intimate with themselves and their own needs?
Yes, I was very much in a time, I call it my fuckboy era.
Nice.
And I say that, and then some friends are just like, you were really clear, like the people that fell in love, and that you were clear with them that like, hey, like I just want to have a physical transaction. Like this is not, I'm not looking for anything. A physical transaction.
a PT.
This is like what it is. Yeah, I was like, a little PT, this is it. I don't want anything else. And if you want to change me, like I can tell you right now, that is not the course of action. I am not, I knew at the time that I was emotionally unavailable, and I was not shy about sharing that. I literally was like, I want this. I'm not emotionally available. I'm not looking to date. I'm not looking to like, deepen a connection. Right. My Scorpio was like, what do you mean? What do you mean? You don't want to deepen? You're lying to yourself.
We need to make
but
an animation.
It's like Inside Out in here. Listen, but like different signs. But yeah, so I call it my fuckboy era, because like I was very much like running on that Libra Sag charm.
Right.
I knew that I was feeling a lot of things that were hard. I was running away from grief, and I was using physical stimulation to distract myself from within myself.
Yeah.
And so I was going out to a lot of events and a lot of parties, and I was having a great time. And also I was deeply in pain and hurting myself, and running away from like tending my own fifis. And so the Virgo and the Scorpio, that's when I say that they're both of them in the corner being like, we could help you.
So they were at a bus stop smoking a cig.
Yeah, like Scorpio was just like smoking a cigarette in a corner and being like, I don't fucking know what to do. And then Virgo was like very like with a clipboard being like, if you just let me organize this, we can work together. But yeah, the Libra Sag were like, woohoo, let's rock and roll.
I remember reading a post of yours from like 2023, so that was kind of a long time ago, so I don't know if it's changed for you, but where you were kind of talking or reflecting on being poly. And so I am curious about how maybe those tie in around having this kind of reckoning with your own needs and your shame and your grief, and then also realizing there's ways that we can negotiate our desires with people that we don't abandon ourselves, though I'm sure that was like a multi-year process and still ongoing. But maybe you can help me tie those things together. Like what was that work with like the clipboard Virgo and the Scorpio kind of taking the lead and saying we need to get met in our depth, we need to get met in our intensity. But then it seems like it may have led you to a poly pocket place.
Yeah, poly pocket place. So when my polyamorous journey intentionally started, I knew that I had the capacity to love more than one person at a time, and I knew that the only way in which I could do those things sustainably was to then incorporate that Virgo and incorporate that Scorpio and incorporate all of my signs, so then I can create the systems that start to break those patterns and start to acknowledge my ego when it comes up and it's deflecting or is like trying to protect itself. And so it really has allowed me to hone in what my needs are, what my care looks like, what I want in a relationship, what I want in different types of relationships, because of course that's the beauty of polyamory, is that not one relationship will be the same, right? Each person will have a different type of need, a different type of care, a different type of desire, and how to build something with you. And so being with multiple people at the same time allowed me to really witness like really stand my ground and be like, oh, there's a boundary that got crossed. Really listen to my body and be like, oh, this didn't feel good. Why did it not feel good? Is it something that I'm carrying from the past, or is it something that happened in this relationship that it's now like, hey, we got to repair this, right? Or like, hey, this came up, but it's something that came up that it's a trigger from the past. Let's like, figure out how care looks like with moving forward, right? So that I feel safe and secure, and then the people that I'm with also feel safe and secure.
Yeah. Just to keep it real, I used to think poly like was such a cop out in a lot of ways, because I feel like it's so rare for me to meet someone where I actually feel like they can be accountable. And so I felt like there was such a way that poly could become this hiding place for folks who don't actually have that like self-awareness to just be like, I'm going to do what I want to do under the like guise of a lot of self-help language. But like we all know that you can say things and do very different things that contradict that. And now I have two people in my life that are Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, and they're showing me that there is a way, and I'm not trying to like put them on a pedestal, but I'm really seeing the ways in which they're becoming honestly like a source of inspiration for me, because I see the way that they have to be so accountable, precisely because in like cishet relationships, there's so much about lying to keep the peace. And so I think there's something really fascinating about having to own our jealousies, the petty things that come up through our insecurities, and having a space where we're not disposable. But we're also accountable. And I just feel like in all relationships, being not disposable, but also being accountable is the work to me, and also not hiding behind language. Because I feel like we can say, especially like our charts, like we can say all of the right things, and it can be an unconscious way to hold power over people. Like, I'm going to, right? Like, I'm going to come to you and I'm going to say some nice things. And then my behavior is going to be trifling. So I don't know if that's been part of your journey, or like wielding language, or if you feel like it's been more sincere for you.
It's a little bit of both. I definitely have gotten a lot more sincere, and I have found like words that like help like communicate like what is going on and figure out like, ooh, I have this feeling, how do I approach it differently? And rather than approaching it like in the same way, right? I was talking about this with my mom the other day too, just like pattern breaking. With that said though, as someone who's polyam and has seen many a thing, I definitely have seen a lot of people who use polyamory as a way to excuse their messy asses when they really just mean that they want to date around, which is also totally valid.
Just own it. I just love the way you're talking about it, because I like to be real on this podcast too, and I'm Scorpio Aries, so it's the realness is there. But I do feel like how, even with this podcast, I'm really careful of not wielding the same language that it starts to numb people out, and they're like, what do we actually mean when we say these things? And I do feel like we mean what we mean, but I think there's some people that use it as a way to be actually quite selfish. And so and I think it's okay to admit in moments where like, yeah, I think when yeah, it's okay to admit that, but also I think beautiful when we are in a place where we're living the language, which I do think is your chart. Like that's what I meant by Sag rising, is kind of that like fiery embodiment of knowledge. Like its opposite sign, Gemini, is really the Mercury ruled like trickster, communicator, messenger, but Sag really wants to live the questions. So I see that for you, where it's like, yes, I want to talk. But, you know, Sag can also be really not into talking. You do have this Scorpio moon. We found out your mom is a Scorpio. I do think it can be reductive to say the moon is just like a place of mothering, or a place of motherfulness. But it often really, there is truth, and that does hold water in astrology. And so I am curious if you can storytell a little bit around your mother and some of the like qualities or traits, potentially through the lens of Scorpio, that you feel like you've inherited from her.
Oh my goodness, so much of it. I mean, her intuition specifically is like so sharp. I mean, talk about witches, like she definitely one of them. Like also, she was born on the 31st of October. Technically the third, well, she was the first minute of the 31st, but then my grandma was like, I don't want my child to be a Halloween child, so then she changed the birth certificate to like October 30th, 11:59.
Tell the truth.
Technically, my grandma was, technically she was born at midnight on the 31st. When I first showed her a drag performance of mine, she clocked the femininity. Like she named it. She was like, wow, you look so comfortable in your femininity, in your masculinity. But I wasn't conscious about it. And then my mom clocking it just by watching it once, I was like, whoa, that's what's up. Like you just hit something here and I have to like go meditate about this.
And you felt seen in that observation.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. And not just seen, but celebrate it. Like it was like one of those moments where I was like, oh, we're healing something here, you and I. Like you're healing something about yourself here in your relationship to me, and I'm also healing something with you and then within myself.
That's so beautiful. And one of my favorite things about like emerging astrologers right now is the way that we're creating a gender expansive vocabulary for this like canonical way that the stars have been read as highly gendered, and the moon and Venus are these like highly gendered, canonically gendered positions in our chart as like feminine energy. And the moon is what's called in fall in Scorpio, and then Virgo is in detriment in Venus, or in fall in Venus. And so both of that, the way that we read that as astrology is there's a kind of like creative tension where the sign, the planet isn't fully comfortable, doesn't know how to express itself in that sign. And so what ends up happening, especially for like Virgo Venus, Venus and Scorpio, Aries moons and Scorpio moons, is that we kind of are the ones who intervene on generational patterning and offer like a new way to express gender outside of binary. And so it's like a really interesting, I think, inheritance, and also like in like intervention that I think we offer of like, yeah, I don't want to be this or that. I'm actually this like third, if we even want to say third thing. And it's kind of leaning into the mutability of your Sag rising of like, I don't really want to be part of this like polarity. And there's actually all these other creative like hues of being that I think do take time though, right? Because there's moments where we're like, again, everything is very socially enforced. So it's not as simple as like just celebrating the way that we want to be, because the world demands answers. And that can be violent at times. It can also create a lot of like alienation that creates hiding, because we're like, or shame, because the world is like, no, you need to be one or the other thing. So I think it's really meaningful to hear healing coming and witness coming through your own mother, because sometimes that's the source of pain, or that's the source of managing gender.
I mean, it definitely started. I feel like me and my mom like have talked about this, where she was like, I mean, if I would have known, I would. And now she's like very aware. Like there's so much expansiveness to who we are. There's so many ways to be everything, and thinking about stars, right, and the cosmos and all these things. Like when we look at the nature and space and water and ocean, it's like there's so much going on. There's so much diversity and so many ways to like exist, and like thinking that we can only be like one or the other, and very specific versions of one and very specific versions of the other. It's like, but what if we just get to choose for ourselves?
I do want to end on your chart ruler, because you are a Sag rising. You're ruled by Jupiter, and this is so beautiful and poetic because your Jupiter is in Virgo, which is another mutable sign, but mutable earth. And what's fascinating is when I think of Sag, I really think of the wild horse, the centaur. I think of freedom. I think of movement. And then Virgo, we really think of Yes, we think of the perfectionist, but we also think of the shaper, the editor, the person who's shaping the clay, who gives things form. So it's really fascinating that you have, yes, this really expansive signature, but where it lands in your chart is actually in the honing, in the editing. So it's like a really cool conversation where it's like, yes, but Jupiter in your chart is actually here to to kind of like take all of that beautiful life force energy and aim it somewhere. And also Virgo is very process based. Can you talk to me about that duality of your Virgo that knows, that kind of battles with perfectionism, but also ultimately ends up being the one who teaches all of us how to hold mess?
I mean, it's something that I'm of course in a daily discovery of, because I still have my knee-jerk reaction of like, well, it needs to be this way, and I'm like, okay, well, why am I holding on so tight onto like this one way? Like, what happens when I like let go a little bit of like that tight, like it needs to be, is like, what if I just like loosen the grip a little bit and like see what happens, you know? And there's so many magical things that can happen. Even in one of my shows, like the closing one for LA, actually, the first 15, I like started the show first like 5-6 minutes, and I finished this one thing, and all of a sudden it's done, and I'm waiting for a music cue to happen that's not happening, and then I'm like, and in the show, I wrote in a relationship between me and the stage manager, so that way there's like a lot of bits and stuff that like happen between like me and the person who's in the booth, and I'm glad I did, because it does give it gives a little bit of space of like communication and negotiation, right? So I'm music cue's not happening, and I'm like, and I just like pause, and I'm like, yo, Nikki, what's up? Like, what's going on? What do you need? Like, what happened to the take off clothes music, you know? And then
see Jupiter and Virgo, like, you're like,
yeah, it's like, what happened? And then Nikki goes into the microphone and says like, we had a power outage on the booth, so right now everything is shut down. And I was like, noted, right? Cool. So like lights, music cues, like all the tech is out, right? And I was like, all right, awesome. And of course that could be any artist's nightmare, just like, what do you mean the light
I know, how do we recover
working right now? And it just started, right? And I was like, you know what? I'm taking this as an opportunity to reflect on like what perfectionism is, because I do talk about perfectionism in the show. And I was like, what happens if I lose my grip? What happens? What can I discover in these however many minutes before things start to work again, if they ever do? And so I loosened up, and I began to like interact with the audience and give people more context about the show and how it got made. And when I finished writing it, when I started rehearsals, I gave more detailed stories of my childhood that connect to the story that I was gonna later unfold. And then it gave so many other things to the show, and it gave so much like different depths to the show, and moments that people were like feeling more emotional about, because now they got more background of like what took to like get to this point. I was like, I gotta lean into it. I gotta lean into this mess. I gotta figure out like, what can I discover in this messiness? And then indeed I found some really beautiful like alignment. And I feel like that's also what happens too, like when it comes to like gender and expression. I witnessed that chaotic mess on stage between my feminine and my masculine, and then all of a sudden I was like, but there's a surprising alignment in all of this chaos. And I've been separating myself, like pulling from different ways, and be like, well, this gotta be this way, this gotta be this way, rather than just like seeing what happens when I just let it all coexist.
Wow.
And so that was kind of the thing. That's how, and I'm still, there's moments where I'm like, why am I repressing this? Why am I
sounds like you're
that?
not, or it sounds like you're creating like this opening for you to play in real time, witnessed real time. I love the wisdom of your chart. I love the bigness of it, and I also love how it's here to curate and be like the editor and the sculptor of these stories that I feel like are so personal and so intimate, but they also touch the lives of so many of us who have threads of shared experience. So I'm so grateful to the work that you're doing, and the way that you talk about it is like really inspiring and resonant. So yeah.
Thank you. I love this. I love what you're doing as well. I was very stoked about this because, as you know, my history with astrology, I was like, oh, this is going to be fascinating. And for the next show that I have in my head that I'm currently slowly but surely putting on page, makes a lot of sense, because the pitch title right now is Fix It Vico. And so
too good.
There's some stuff I'll be sharing, a lot of stories about how I feel like I'm always the fixer, but what am I really fixing?
First of all, do you have any ways we can stay connected to you, and do you want to shout out your show, and then maybe, I don't know if there's something you can share about this upcoming Fix It show, but
you can follow me as either Puerto Rican Ninja. The same N for Puerto Rican is the same N for Ninja on Instagram. But you can also follow a new Instagram page called rise.art of.a.king. So rise of a king with a little dot in between each of the words, because I'm gonna be doing something really fun for next year. I'm gonna be doing a tour with the show. I am now in the process of in the very beginning stages. I'm calling it Rise of a King Queer Royalty Tour, and the aim right now is to do end of January, February, and March. It'll be 10 cities / 10 towns. And I'm very stoked about what's coming out of all of this. But yeah, you can follow me on those too. I'm on Blue Sky. You can also check out my Substack as Vico Ortiz. I have a couple of newsletters there, one of them being Thirsty Silly Goosing, but I do guided meditations. I share polyam musings, personal stuff that I'm like working through. I'm like sharing more and more, like, you know, between video and essay stuff to, you know, share myself and share the process as a Virgo.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I love that for your chart.
Yeah.
And we are going to end on just some like quick rapid fire questions for you that I thought would be fun. Yes. You actually know something about astrology. Are you ready?
Yes.
And I'm saying sign, so you can do sun, but if you want to be advanced, you can be like this moon or Venus, whatever, but no pressure. Okay, so which sign would you trust most with a secret?
Oh, Scorpio.
Correct.
For sure.
There's no wrong answers. There are. Okay.
I was like, yeah, like Scorpio, 100%. Yeah.
Which sign do you want to have a flirty night out with? Like no strings, just cute.
Oh gosh, I always have a really good time with Sages. My partner's a Sag. It's always a flirt. I mean, again, that flirty night out, a Sag is a good time.
That's a good answer.
Sag is a good time. Yeah. Yeah.
And then which sign do you specifically want on your side in a fight? Not that we're fighting at this age, but you know, it's fun.
Virgo or Capricorn. I think like those two will be good to have. I also would love to flirt with a Leo. I think Leos have like really fun, like they wouldn't necessarily flirt back with me, but I would flirt, and getting to see them like all jazzed up about the flirting would be
so
plenty.
Cute. Which sign would you want to debate? Like on some nerdy, like bar for bar.
I would debate with an Aquarius because we would get on some wild ass fucking ideas.
I love Libra Aquarius
like,
debate.
Yo. Yeah, I would be like, yo, what? Like, it's like, I need someone, because if I wanted to like have a debate that's very, like, I would probably choose an earth sign, like whether it's Taurus or Virgo or Cap, like, But I feel like having an air, like an Aquarius being like, I'm going to throw you with some ran-abs curveballs. I'm going to be like, whoa, I never thought of that. So
I love your answers.
I can go with my Virgo.
Who would you want to be your stylist for like a big event? Like stakes are high. Who's styling you?
Leo Libra for sure. Leo Libra combo. A little Pisces in there too.
Yes.
But I will not flirt with the Pisces.
Well, Vico's amazing speaking to you. I'm definitely gonna see all the things. I'm sure you're coming to the Bay Area, because why wouldn't you?
Yes, that is definitely
one of the hubs.
That's on the list. That is on the list. Very, very excited.
Thank you. That was Vico Ortiz, who is a Libra sun. As always, to end the show, I want to leave you with some key takeaways we can all benefit from, inspired by our stars chart. In today's conversation, Vico and I talked about the complementary and competing energies at play in their chart. Blessed with a charismatic Libra sun and a free-spirited Sag rising, Vico thrives on connection, adventure, and novelty. But that's not the full story, because they also have a magnetic and intense Scorpio moon and a devotional, steady Virgo Venus. Both of these placements crave depth, loyalty, and intensity in their relationships and in the way they move through the world. So, for example, we talked about Vico's fuckboy era, we've all been there, where they were really straight up with lovers about their emotional unavailability, because it was a time when Vico, in their own words, was running away from grief. So going deeper would have been too confronting of the very emotions they were avoiding. But sooner than later, that Virgo Scorpio came knocking at the door of their soul, demanding to be heard. So it was only a matter of time before the Libra Sag had to kick rocks and at least share the limelight with the parts of them that crave being known and cherished. But now Vico is in a place in their life of emotional integration where the very drives and needs of their birth chart work together, without one overpowering the other. And this, to me, is the poetry of our star maps, because we contain multiple, sometimes contradictory desires and drives, but it's actually through our experiences and awareness that we can begin to unify and express the dynamic energies in a way that adds depth and nuance to our lives and our relationships. So that's it for our download from the cosmos this week. If you liked today's episode and anything resonated with you, please leave a comment to keep the conversation going. Hit that subscribe button, and I'll see y'all next week.